Welcome back. It's 8:13. Mayor Eric Adams' third State of the City speech felt more like a campaign rally, didn't it? As he highlighted his accomplishments and touted the city's economic comeback.
Crime is down, jobs are up, and every day we're delivering for working class New Yorkers. Just look at the numbers. We've taken over 14,000 illegal guns off our streets. More jobs mean more prosperity for every New Yorker, because all New Yorkers deserve to share in our city's success.
All right, very optimistic, right? Mayor Adams is facing an uphill battle for re-election with low approval ratings and an investigation into his campaign fundraising. Political analyst JC Polanco joining us this morning with a closer look at the mayor's State of the City speech. Not only what was said, but what was really left out of that speech as well. Good to see you, JC, in person.
So happy to see you in the flesh.
Yeah, it's great to have you here on the couch. So obviously a very rosy picture coming from the mayor, right? Crime is down, fewer guns on the street. However, he seemed to have glossed over the major issue that the city was facing, and that's the migrant crisis. Why do you think that was?
Well, you know, he needs some positive press. This is his opportunity of a lifetime after months and months of just negativity, from campaign workers that got themselves in trouble, to commissioners who have been indicted, to investigations, to seeing an influx of migrants all over our city, literally all over our city. You couldn't pick a worse time, and he finally figured a time of the year where he can just talk about what his accomplishments were. He needs this opportunity. It appears as if he has half of his own party turning against him. You know, he's a centrist mayor. More and more, the Democratic Party is more progressive than ever. So they don't actually coincide ideologically. So why not pick a day of the year where you could just go in there, have a video talking about where you're from, have some of your elected officials that support you, fill the audience with union supporters, and give it a rah-rah like a football coach in halftime. Yeah. He had to do that. I mean, there was no other opportunity. Now the talk of the day is the city of the state of the city, and that's the talk across New York City media.
I felt like there were a lot of attempts at a kumbaya moment. I mean, let's talk about City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams. They've been at odds about the How Many Stops Act and other issues as well. But he mentioned her many times and seemed to be trying to improve their relationship. Do you think that that's going to have any of an effect at all?
Listen, absolutely. This mayor is all about swagger. This mayor is all about, let me try to get this relationship going. And he used that opportunity to reach out and extend an olive branch. You know, the city council and the mayor are going to be at odds. Why? Because it just mentioned the city council is completely filled with progressive Democrats, and he's not one of them. And you can see it in the things that he vetoes. And often he knows that there's going to be an override coming, so you're not going to have the overwhelming majority of the city council supporting your initiatives, but that speaker is so important. You want to remind her, hey, I'm you, I'm where you're from, we're together on this, we're the same generation, you know me, let's get this done together, and let's go above and beyond these young guys that just got elected that may be pushing you to the left. You know, work with me here. And he's desperate because there are some serious issues going on. You mentioned a little earlier things that were glossed over, the migrant crisis.
Yes.
I mean, this is such an important issue. He mentioned 105,000 migrants coming in. Your viewers should know, this is a fact. I'm also an attorney. 70% of these cases are not going to be approved for asylum. So you're going to have an overwhelming majority of people seeking asylum in New York City that will eventually just stay here. Now, what does that mean? Do we have the infrastructure to house these folks? Do we have enough teachers? Do we have enough bilingual teachers? Do we have enough mental health counselors? Who's going to pay for this stuff? This is a very important issue. We had a homelessness crisis prior to the migrant crisis. So, you know, we know this is a serious issue, and we have a problem. The mayor understands this. The federal government is doing nothing. They won't even meet with him in Washington. But then you have a city council that wants to make sure that housing is available universally for everyone that's been here, but who's paying for it? Guess what? The mayor has to deal with those budget issues.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. We have Adrienne Adams coming on the show next week to talk about their relationship, see what's happening there, because they're going to override the veto for the How Many Stop Act. It's going to cause a whole back and forth. But you mentioned housing overall, right? And yes, it's a rah-rah moment, but there's also the reality of what you can pay for and what you can't pay for. Affordable housing, a huge issue. He did touch upon it yesterday.
Well, to be honest, he did say, I'm going to try to get 500,000 new housing units in the next decade. I know it's very ambitious.
But he said 24 within 2024.
I know he did. And he also mentioned 5 million jobs by 2025. So you can see there were some campaign slogans, things that we can remember, things that you and I can talk about today, slogans that stick. But are they ambitious? Yes. Aspirational? Yes. Are they realistic? Maybe not. You know, the truth is that do we have the money to create so much housing? The truth is that we don't. We have a state legislature that hasn't moved on the tax initiative that he's asking, because with that tax initiative, your viewers should know, developers would have an incentive to create housing in units that are currently unoccupied.
Yeah.
Now, the issue is, can those developers offer housing opportunities for those low-income New Yorkers? And that's the sticking point. The truth is that debate is going to be one that's going to really dictate if we're going to have additional housing in New York City. But he's very dependent on Albany and Washington.
Do you think this was
He's
really
made that
the jumping off point for his re-election campaign? That started yesterday, right? Because we're hearing names like Scott Stringer and others who may challenge him. So this was really his first, campaign promise for the next term.
Yeah, this is it. Yesterday was day one of the re-election campaign.
Right.
There is no question that you have some heavyweights that are going to primary the mayor from the left. And you mentioned Scott Stringer. Scott Stringer and others that are from the more progressive majority of the Democratic Party. But New Yorkers have to remember that we have a ranked choice system here in New York City. So he works through coalitions, and that's how he won the first time around. And that's what you saw yesterday. Man, when you saw what was happening in the Bronx, he had unions, he had supporters, he had a video presentation of elected officials that endorse his campaign, that will be behind him, and a very diverse crowd and diverse dais that introduced him.
He had protesters outside.
Yeah, well, he tried to pander to them too.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, we're welcoming in hecklers too.
Well, he's gonna have protesters throughout. Not only is he dealing with all the crises that we talked about. By the way, the 105 is going to become 250,000 soon, because it's inevitable that families will be created and they're going to make New York City their home, and we're going to have to make this happen. And you mentioned the fact that he's going to get hecklers. The mayor is a steadfast supporter of Israel at a time in New York City where many of in his party, in the left part of his party, are more and more anti the Netanyahu regime and what they see as overall support for Israel. So he's going to have to answer those things as well.
All right, JC. So great having you here. Make sure
So
you come
happy to
back. We
be
have so
here.
much more we would love to have talked to you about, but unfortunately we ran out of time.
Thank you so much.
So thanks again for coming in.